Bulldog broadcast on the field of 68 Media Network. I'm your host, Dan Dickau. First off, big thanks to a couple of our sponsors here in town. McGilvery Environmental, based in the Idaho Panhandle, service Northern Idaho, Western Montana, as well as Eastern Washington for all of your land and environmental needs. Kip and his crew do a phenomenal job. So thank you to them. Thank you to Shoot 360. And we've got another sponsor coming up next week that I'm looking forward to spotlighting. So waiting on the final details of what information they want shared. But if you have interest, reach out today to me through email, dandickau@hotmail.com, and we gladly spotlight your business. But back to Gonzaga basketball. It's been an interesting 2 weeks. Clearly, we talked about the Kentucky loss at the Battle in Seattle at Climate Pledge Arena. Had a week to get ready to travel all the way to the East Coast to play in the Mecca of basketball. That is Madison Square Garden in New York City, where they took on UConn, which I wasn't at the game, but just watching it, it was definitely a pro UConn crowd. Some Gonzaga fans sprinkled in, but just to know the fact that a standalone game that Gonzaga can be a headliner in Madison Square Garden against a good team just continues to show the growth and the evolution of the program, shows that they are truly one of the elites. But a frustrating loss in a number of different ways. Obviously, they lost 77-71. Not a good start. Follow down 13-2. Climb back in it, keep within striking distance at halftime, make a nice run to start that second half. And then when Battle and Nemhart hit back-to-back threes, tied it at 55 apiece with, I want to say, about 8.5 minutes or so left before UConn went on a 10-0 run, and then they just couldn't get back to a one-possession game in that final couple minutes to really make it interesting. But Gonzaga, with that loss, slides to 13 in the AP poll. They're sitting at 6 in KenPom, which essentially shows you the strength of the schedule that they've had and the makeup of their analytic profile, that they're still ranked sixth with 3 losses. The only team with 3 losses ahead of them is Houston. When I last checked, Houston was sitting at fourth with 3 losses as well. But a couple things to kind of really be concerned about when you watch that. Liam McNeely, I thought, was a big time difference maker for UConn. He was that big wing at about 6'7", 6'8", that I don't want to say had his way, but made big shot, big play after big play. Finished with 26, got to the free throw line a number of times, 10 of 12 from the free throw line. I think that the play down the stretch, minute and a half or so left, that really kind of sealed it was he drove right seemingly into nothing and kind of stumbled and flipped it up, was able to make it kind of over his head, a circus shot. That was kind of the ceiling bucket right there for UConn to go ahead and get that victory. But I thought Gonzaga did an okay job on the glass. I thought they did a good job taking care of the basketball. I thought they limited some of the other guys, such as Solo Ball, didn't let some of the other guys that you thought might have a big game or wanted to have a big game, like Aiden Mahaney, who did it to them when he was at St. Mary's, really was a non-factor during the course of the game, in regards to what Gonzaga was able to take UConn out of. But when you look at Gonzaga, Battle played tremendous. I thought 21 points, and that's a difficult environment to go into for a guy like that. Yeah, he's got 6 years of college experience. You would expect him to be ready to go, but he grew up in the shadows of New York City and New Jersey. Probably had always wanted to play in Madison Square Garden. I believe he would have been a Knicks fan. Read an article or two that, yes, he had gone to Knicks games. He had been to Madison Square Garden, but he had never played there. He had family and friends there, and for him to go out and play a very good game, I thought was awesome to see for him. Nemhart continues to do what he's done throughout the year. 16 points, 7 assists to only 2 turnovers. Now he leads the country in assists at over 10 per game, or it might be right at 10.0. I'm not sure, but at that point you're just splitting hairs. But he continues to really drive the bus, so to speak, for Gonzaga. He's doing a tremendous job. The only thing in regards to him, 6 of 15 from the field, missed one layup down the stretch that I believe would have cut it to that one possession game late that I know he would wish he would have had back. Just kind of rolled around the rim, just didn't drop. But he continues. There continues to be no real holes or flaws in his game this year that you can nitpick too much because he is doing so much. He's playing at an All-American level. He's directing traffic. He's getting guys involved. And then I think Michael Ajayi, the numbers aren't necessarily eye-popping as compared to what he did at times last year, but 14 points, 6 rebounds. It was limited minutes because I think Huff, Greg, Stromer were also playing and contributing in a positive way. So he didn't get 30 plus minutes, but 6 of 6 from the field. I think what you're starting to see, or what I hope you're going to start to see, is him becoming a little bit more comfortable in his opportunities and him knowing when to crash the offensive glass, how to get out in transition, how to make himself available for guys like Nemhart when he's running the lane in transition. Because there is a fine line of just running hard and running hard with a purpose, finding an angle, finding a crack, getting correct spacing, and then being in a position then where you can crash the offensive glass. And I think he's starting to see those things. But I also think in regards to talking about him a little bit, you're starting to see some of the things that are missing with Anton Watson. And, Anton Watson covered so many holes for this program over the last couple of years, whether the ball was in his hands and he became a facilitator at the end of his career, or he was a cutter early in his career, or he's a crash the glass guy, or he was a defensive kind of stopgap with a lot of different positions and matchups that he would have. So I think hopefully we can continue to see that growth in Ajayi as we finish this non-conference and move into league play. The couple frustrating ones, obviously, if you're a GU fan, is, Graham Ike, as good as he's been at times this year, he's had some struggles for games too. And I think you would put that UConn game right up in there. 4 points, 4 fouls, and only 14 minutes. And that's in the biggest stages, you want your leading scorer to step up and play really well, kind of like what he did at San Diego State in that second half. You were hoping that you were going to see that response at some point in that game from EK, but unfortunately it didn't come. I'm not too worried because he's shown the ability to put consistent stretches of games together, just like he did last year. And so I look for him to turn the tables and get that going here to finish the non-conference and in the league. And then unfortunately, Nolan Hickman had a bad game. I mean, 0 points. I think he was 0 for 1 or 0 for 2 from the field. Only played 12 minutes. Dusty Stromer ended up picking up a lot of those minutes at the 2 guard throughout the course of the day. And it's one of those things where, as well as Hickman has played, to see a 0 there on the board is a little bit of a head scratcher. But, they need his shooting. They need his ball handling to relieve pressure for Nemhart. And then they need his IQ on the defensive end, which he's shown multiple times this year to be able to, if you're outsized like he was against UConn, finding ways to be a pest, whether it's help side jamming cutters, whether it's active hands digging down on the post, whether it's getting over the top of pick and rolls. He's been good at all of those things throughout the course of this early part of the season.
The world's leading immersive basketball training experience that combines in-person skill development with digital gamification and virtual competition. At Shoot 360, you will train with our coaches, measure your skills with our proprietary technology, and track your progress on the Shoot 360 mobile app. Shoot 360 Spokane. Unlock your game.
Everything that has led to the 3 losses, West Virginia in overtime loss, Kentucky in overtime loss, UConn 6-point loss on the road, are all fixable. I think a couple things that come to mind quickly is you got to shoot the ball better, and you have to make timely plays down the stretch, which each of the other 3 teams did in each of those losses. And I think a lot of it, again, is due to, Gonzaga, you're going to get a heavy dose of ball screen action with Nemhart throughout the course of the game. You're seeing that Battle is willing to take big shots. Now it's just getting even more comfortable in understanding those angles of how you're going to attack and ways you're going to attack down the stretch of close games. And I don't see any reason they're not going to get it figured out. But that being said, you've got a little bit of a break, a nice easier break. I don't want to say any game is easy at this level, but you've got two non-conference opponents coming into McCarthy before Christmas break. Guys are able to get away for a couple days before you got a huge neutral site game against UCLA down in LA. But Nichols comes in out of the Southland, 242 in the Ken Palm, sitting at 7-4. Not a great shooting team. Neither is Gonzaga this year from beyond the three-point arc. They shoot at 30% from the three-point line, but they're led by a very aggressive guard in Byron Ireland. Averages, I believe, right around 15 points a game. But they're coming out in, as I said, 7-4, but they've won their last 5 games. Yes, 2 of those are against non-Division I opponents, but I think it's a get-right game for Gonzaga in regards that you've got back-to-back losses. You seemingly have been on the road without a home game for darn near a month when you look at the Atlantis tournament in the Bahamas, then you look at the game in Seattle, you look at the game in New York. It's been, I want to say, close to a month since a home game. So the fans should be energized. They should be excited, ready to go. The players should be comfortable back in McCarthy as well. That game is on Wednesday, followed up by a game on Saturday before the guys go home for Christmas break for a few days against Bucknell. Bucknell's out of the Patriot League, 260 in Ken Palm, 4-7. They don't shoot it well from the three-point line as either, below 30% from the three-point line. They've got a really good guard in Josh Basco, who averages 14, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. So does a lot of different things. They put him in lots of different actions that Gonzaga is going to have to be aware of. But I think when you look at it, their best player is a 7-footer. And that's Noah Williamson, 7 foot, 250. He's got one of the best rim protection rates in the country. So that's going to be a challenge for EK and Huff down low. But I think the other thing when you look at him, averages 13 points, about 6 rebounds per game. So that will be a nice challenge with some size before you lead into playing UCLA on the road in that neutral site game, because UCLA is loaded. They were ranked preseason, lost, early to New Mexico, but they've quietly righted the ship, and you know what you're going to get with UCLA. Unbelievably tough on the defensive end, very disciplined on the offensive end, and it's a UCLA roster. So take out last year when they struggled. It's a roster with a ton of talent. So that's what you're going to see. So for week 7 in the Bulldog broadcast, again, thanks a ton to our sponsors, McGilvery Environmental, Shoot 360, and we've got a new one coming up next week. But thank you to our sponsors. Frustrating week if you're a Gonzaga fan that just finished up, but an exciting week because you've got the team back at home. You got a chance to get out to the McCarthy Athletic Center, support them before they wrap up their non-conference on the road in a neutral site game against UCLA. And before you know it, we're in league play. Open up with Pepperdine, and so Pepperdine and LMU. So exciting times for Gonzaga, seeing that you're not necessarily being talked about as that Final Four contender, which I still think they are a Final Four contender, but you're not getting the pressure, you're not getting the attention that maybe you would have seen had you been 9-1 at this point of the year, ranked in the top 3 or top 4. You can right the ship in regards to the things that you want to work on without the spotlight directly on you. So you saw what happened last year. They had some struggles. They righted the ship, and then they made a tremendous run. I still look at this team as Sweet 16, Elite 8 for sure. And then with the roster and the aspirations and the experience and the potential to be a Final Four team, because I think this year's that wide open. So for the Bulldog broadcast on the field of 68, thanks for listening. Look forward to catching up with you again real soon.